Welcome to the Turkey Hunter Podcast with me, your host, Andy Galliano. In this podcast, I share with turkey hunters just like you how to have more turkeys on your hunting property and how to have more successful turkey hunts. I teach you how to do this with tips and interviews with turkey hunting pros, wildlife management tips, and entertaining turkey hunting stories. Tune in weekly as I share proven and simple strategies to help you have more success this turkey season. Make sure to head over to www.imturkeyhunting.com to subscribe to receive free turkey hunting tips, tactics, strategies, and product reviews. Also, please visit and like my Facebook fan page. Go to Facebook and search I Am Turkey Hunting, and also feel free to post your turkey hunting photos from this past season and let us know where and when you killed your bird. For all of you Twitter users out there, please follow me on Twitter, where my handle is @TurkeyHitman, and I will be sure to follow you back. And now, for this week's show. Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of the Turkey Hunter Podcast. You are listening to episode 93, Planning the 2017 Spring Turkey Hunting Trip. And I am your host, and the guy who's soon to be without a hunting club to hunt in. So we actually found out about 2 weeks ago that the owner of some of the property that we lease down in southwest Alabama has sold another 300 acres. And not only that, but the 300 acres that he sold was our access to about 450 acres that we had leased. So, looks like we're losing another 800 acres of property for hunting. And not only that, but the property that was sold is where our clubhouse is. So, we worked out an agreement to lease the clubhouse from the new owner for this hunting season. And then when this hunting season is over, we are clocking out. So we're on the prowl for some more hunting property. The good news is we have about a year to find something. The other piece of good news is we may be onto something already, but we probably won't know until after this deer season. The other piece of good news is that hopefully what we find, what we lease going forward, will be closer to home instead of a 2-hour trip every week during hunting season to go down there. Of course, the bad news is leaving a club that you've been in for almost 30 years, where you know the property like the back of your hand, and someone could drop you off in the middle of that property in the middle of a moonless night, and you could find your way back to the camp house. So, regardless, life goes on. There's exciting times ahead. I always like to look at new trees, so I'm pretty excited about that. And quite honestly, since I've done so much timber cutting on this piece of property, the turkey hunting is nothing like it used to be. So I'm fairly excited about venturing out to find something new to chase turkeys on. With all of that said, we are 223 days, 11 hours, 20 minutes, and 56 seconds away from opening day of spring turkey season in Alabama. Now, I've got a fairly brief episode for you today. You know, I'm in the midst of planning my 2017 out-of-state turkey hunting trip with my buddies. And this year we have big aspirations. We're taking on 4 states out west. At least that's the plan right now. So we have our sights set on Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, and Arizona. And the real trick here is going to be that, of course, we have limited time and limited funds. And taking on 4 states on one trip is going to stretch that limited time and stretch those limited funds. So likely on this trip we will be hunting public land next year to keep our costs down. But the downside to hunting public land is that when you get there, you don't know the property. Typically for us on these trips, when we've gone to hunt public land, it's taken us about a day to a day and a half to get to learn the land well enough, find turkeys, and get out and actually have some success. So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do 4 states in a limited amount of time. I have a feeling that the trip may be pared down when it comes to taking almost 2 weeks off work and that much time away from families for a hunting trip. That's a hard sell for most of us on our wives. So We'll find that out next week when we have a brief conference call between us guys going on the trip. Now, over the next several episodes, I'm going to take you through the process that I'm going to go through in planning this trip. There are numerous public land opportunities out west, and the turkey hunting pressure should be limited in those areas for a couple of reasons. First of all, that there are not as many turkey hunters out west as there are east of the Mississippi River. And secondly, because these states are so large and rural. So I'm hoping to not have the same issue that I had last year when I was doing my research in West Virginia. And I'm hoping that the biologists that I talk to will be a little bit more willing to share information with you guys. So what I've been doing over the past several days is research. Now, I already knew where we were going to go on the trip and what subspecies we'll be after on the trip. So that part of the process has been pretty simple. But, like I said, these are large and mostly rural states, and they cover a lot of ground. Not only that, but the national forests in these states and the Indian reservations in these states are huge. And add on to that the BLM land and the state leased hunting land opportunities that are almost limitless. So there's a lot of research to do, especially because I'm doing that research for 4 states. So over the past several days, I've spent a ton of time on Google Earth, Google Maps, and the internet searching state wildlife websites for harvest records, season predictions and forecasts, season dates and regulations, and public land opportunities as well. In doing my research, I've now got my list of wildlife biologists and game and fish department employees together that I'm going to call to pick their brains, because my goal is for them to share with me the best places to go on those public lands. Now, I've started contacting some of those people to run through my list of questions with them, and I hope to bring you some of those interviews over the upcoming weeks as well. Remember, last year the state biologist for West Virginia wasn't willing to share that information on the show, maybe because of the accessibility of most of his WMAs to very populated areas. But this year I don't think we're going to have the same limitations. Most of these pieces of public land are between 1 million and 2 million acres. And that's 1 to 2 million rough mountainous acres. So I think it's going to be fairly tough to ruin those public hunting opportunities due to hunting pressure. When I say rough mountainous areas, I'm talking elevations that range from 6,000 feet on the low side to 9,000 plus feet. After doing my research on Google Earth and looking at the elevations of most of these pieces of public land, I know that a major part of my planning for success for this upcoming hunt is going to come in the form of cardio, and that will start very soon, like last week soon. I've been on a hunt in the mountainous terrain where we had to stop and wait for our hunting partners to catch up to us about every 15 minutes as we were climbing these mountains, and that is not fun, and I don't want the same experience on this upcoming hunt either. I will promise you that I'll be urging my hunting buddies to start their cardio now as well. Now, because of where we are going, we're having to plan a little differently than normal because the hunting seasons in Arizona can get a little bit crazy. Those seasons vary by the game management unit, and I've got to figure out exactly which unit we're going to apply for and we will be hunting in before we decide when we will be going and actually book the trip. So that's what we'll be doing over the next couple of weeks on the Turkey Hunter podcast. You're going to get the behind the scenes details of me putting together my out-of-state hunt, where you'll be a part of the planning call with the boys, the calls to the biologist, some calls to some outfitters as well, and it's always good to get reports from the park rangers who have boots on the ground as well. And where they saw turkeys this past spring is not necessarily where we will find turkeys this coming spring. So despite the fact that I'm calling and talking to them now, I will also be calling them about a week to 2 weeks before we actually go on the trip to see if they can point me in the direction of where they're seeing birds at that time. These are people that are in the parks all the time, so they've got a good idea of where they're seeing turkeys. and if I can find the right ones, they'll be glad to share that information as well. Now, with all of that said, I don't want to take away all of the fun stuff for you, because if you have aspirations of going on this trip in the near future, then you'll want to do some of this research for yourself. At least in my mind, it's a big part of the fun of a trip like this. So anyway, that's all I have for you guys this week, but before I turn you loose, please do me one favor. Please forward, like, and share this show on social media. That is a big help. It helps to get the word out about the show, and it is much appreciated. Also, before I let you go, just a real quick little piece of turkey news for you. If you are going to hunt turkeys this fall in New Hampshire, you got a little gift from the state, and you got 2 extra days of fall turkey shotgun season. A weekend has been added to the end of the season, so now the season will run from October the 10th through the 16th in certain wildlife management units. So keep that in mind for you guys up in the Northeast. If you're going to chase birds this fall, you've got 2 more days to do it. So congrats on that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. I know that you have choices. I appreciate you spending your time with us. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Goodbye. Thanks for tuning in. You were just listening to the Turkey Hunter podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please go on over to iTunes and leave a 5-star review. And make sure to head over to www.iamturkeyhunting.com to subscribe for free turkey hunting tips, tactics, strategies, and product reviews to help you have a more successful turkey season. And stay tuned for upcoming episodes on hunting afternoon birds, how to film your hunt, and the breeding cycle of hens, as well as some guest interviews. Thanks again for listening. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you sharing some of it with us. See you next week.